welcome everybody to another brand new episode of the
Geek
Buddies!
Yeah, well, we're back again to talk about a bunch of geeky news stories going on in the world of geektainment, in the Geekiverse, in the Geekaxy. I don't know how you say that. Galaxy. The Galaxy, I guess it starts with a G. It'll be that. All right.
The Geekaxy. The Geekaxy?
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 What about Geekgalaxy? Is that too much? Okay.
Do you mean the Geekiverse?
Oh.
All
right.
Oh, did you say it already?
I thought I said Geekiverse. No, I said Geeka World, didn't I? Oh, well, whatever. Anyway, we're going to get into so many things going on here that is happening in our Blue Beetle. We got a Blue Beetle. We got ourselves some trailers to talk about. We got some update with Taika Waititi, who apparently is directing 45 films at the same time. And we're going to get into our main topic, which is discussing what if we're on the heels or we're on the precipice of what if coming out. So we're going to talk about what if some of this stuff is going to be canon going forward in the future. There's been a loud drumbeat of people who want to see Captain Carter live action. That's for damn sure. So we're getting into all of that. But first, let's introduce ourselves. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, writer, producer, and host here on the Outlaw Nation and the Geek Buddies. Mike?
I am Michael Vogel. I'm a writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies.
Shan?
And this is Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer and a television actor where you may have seen me on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Silicon Valley.
Okay. All right. I like it. Is something wrong with the internet? What's going on over there?
Yeah, my internet's been kind of dropping in and dropping out. Hold on one second. I'm just...
Oh, wow. Shannon. Shannon's having internet problems. Well, that's... Well, isn't that a horse of a different color? Feels way better on this end of things, I'll tell you that much.
How is that? Is that better?
Oh, yeah. Much better. Absolutely. Shout out to your ring tee, too. I like that ring tee. Good combo. All right. So let's get into it. The way this usually works, for those of you who are returning, thank you very much for staying on the Geek Buddies train. We appreciate it. For those of you who are new, thanks for taking a chance on us and hanging out with us. And for those of you who listen on the podcast feed, thank you even more. And remember, the Geek Buddies is a podcast as well. So you can download the Geek Buddies podcast and listen to all our stuff there.
I really want to do Geek Biddies. I want Geek Biddies. I want three old women at their Miami retirement home just doing the geek news every week, the Geek Biddies. I want it.
I love that Xolo Maridueña. He's fantastic. I love him on Cobra Kai.
That's not how any of this works. It's not how this works.
What?
Right, exactly. All right, we're going to get to it. The way that the show usually works is each of us presents a geek news item. We all talk about it amongst ourselves for your enjoyment. Then we take a bit of a mini break and jump into our main topic, which, as I mentioned, is the what if is canon. So what if it becomes canon? So we're going to talk about that. But anyway, I think, Shannon, you start us off first. Is that correct?
That's right. With trailers. 3 new trailers this week. We're going to talk a lot about them, so let's just get right in. First off, we have the second trailer for the Venom sequel, Venom, Let There Be Carnage. This one has Tom Hardy, Michelle Williams, Andy Serkis directing, adding Woody Harrelson as Cassidy, also known as Carnage. So the first trailer that we saw for this, there was sort of like there was a kind of a meh reaction. This one definitely looks a lot more dynamic. Also, I think, has it been a year since we got that first trailer? So they had a good long while to come in some of those effects. Definitely, Woody Harrelson is really going to be, I think, what may make or break this movie. And based off of this second trailer, it looks like they may have made it. But gentlemen, what do you all think?
Yeah. Mike?
Not sold. Not
really?
sold on it.
Okay.
I know I might be in the minority on this one. Look, do I think this is a more dynamic trailer? Did we see more of Woody Harrelson as Carnage? Does he not have a horrible wig? Yes, all of that's true. But I also I think this is a better cut trailer. It's better put together. But all of the underlying issues that I just have with this, there's two parts to this. The underlying issues I have with the overall venture of a Spider-Verse with no Spider-Man still remain. I mean, Sony's doing their best with what they can do. I still don't fully buy it. And then I just question, I think that the first Venom movie, in my opinion, is so rough on the story front and so does not come together well that even with Andy Serkis stepping in to direct and adding in Woody Harrelson and the carnage of it all, like, it still, like, doesn't really excite me. I know that, like, people who love Venom, I mean, I know the movie did fantastic. If you love Venom, you want to see him on screen, you got what you wanted. Now you want to see Carnage. They're giving you that. Like, I understand the thrill of seeing these characters on screen together. I'm still just not 100% sold on the bond between Eddie and Venom. Like, the whole, I know they're going for the more comedic beat. I think that can possibly work. I'm not 100% against it, but it still didn't fully win me over in this trailer. So I watched it and was kind of like, okay, yeah, I will see how it goes. But I know that Johnny, I know that you felt differently. You were into it.
But I think what you stated earlier, Michael, is the right point. This is a better cut trailer. So I enjoyed this trailer for the trailer that it was. I like the way they presented the trailer. I like the way you did get a different haircut for Cletus Cassidy. We got 2 more shots of Shriek. God forbid we let her speak, for God's sakes, but maybe they're holding that off until the movie. But I wanted to see more of that, but we got at least a little bit more of that. Michelle Williams doesn't come in until all the way at the end, and then she's with Dan from Veep, for God's sakes. But I think what was great though is that they understood. They're like, we made $875 million off that first movie. We're going to replace the director. We're going to bring in someone of even more note, Andy Serkis, but we're not changing the overall vibe of this movie. So Sony has taken a gamble that this kind of approach to Venom, which is what we're getting with Eddie and Venom and the, I'm going to bash your face in, oh, I'm hungry, I'm your friend, that kind of stuff. They are banking on the fact that that's why the people want to come back and see it again. So we'll see, Mikey. If people come back and this is at 500 million or 400 million, then obviously they're going to make a complete sea change about how they go forward with Venom, like Transformers did after last night. They're like, oh, all right, everyone's done with the Michael Bay version. Let's move on. I think they're going to maybe do the same thing here, but it feels almost like a John Favreau situation where they asked him to do Lion King, but they said, this is what you've got to do. Are you willing to still direct the movie? And he was like, yeah, sure. I'll make some money off it, doing that's fine. I'll stick to what you want me to do. And it seems like with Serkis, they brought him in and said, you just got to keep this rhythm to it or vibe to it. And that's what we got. So, but I hear you. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of that approach, but I'm trusting that Andy might make it work. Who knows? Yeah,
we'll see. Look, maybe Venom as Cookie Monster is going to fully work for me when I see the full movie. Like, I am super open to the give me cookies version of Venom. And it could be really good. I'm not 100% sold just yet.
We didn't hear a Carnage voice, though, so that's good, right? So maybe the Carnage voice is different. I don't know. Shannon, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that the comparison to Venom as Cookie Monster, especially in the voice, thinking back to the trailer, I'm like, oh shit,
that's accurate.
That's a fair assessment. And look, I think everyone was excited to have Andy Serkis directing, but really the only thing we've seen him direct was the Jungle Book that went to Netflix, Mowgli, which did not get the best reception. I mean, now visually it was pretty stunning, and that's what you can say about this trailer as well. I mean, those Carnage effects, I mean, they look really good.
Yeah.
Will that translate to a good movie? We'll see. I mean, the fact that they did switch out Woody Harrelson's Party City wig for something like an actual wig, it's like, yeah, Woody Harrelson is a dynamic actor. It's going to be a visually dynamic film. Whether or not the story all comes together, we'll see. But again, as you all said, that first Venom movie, I wasn't a fan. It made a ton of money, and a lot of people liked it. I remember watching that movie on opening night, cracking up at something pretty cringe-inducing for me, and Kalinowski leaning over, he's just like, can you believe people are laughing at this? I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, this was not necessarily made for the comic fans of Venom. This was made for the general movie-going audience who doesn't necessarily think that Venom and Spider-Man have to be connected.
Yeah,
right.
But we'll see. So, and Venom comes out. Oh my gosh, just next month, September 24th.
It's around the corner.
So our next trailer is actually from a buddy of ours named Kay Cannon.
Oh.
She's the writer of the Pitch Perfect movies, also directed Blockers, and she's doing her new version of Cinderella So originally this was supposed to be in theaters, but during the pandemic, Sony made a deal, and so it's going to come out on Amazon Prime now. Really interesting look at this movie. I mean, this is a completely different Cinderella. I mean, if you've seen Pitch Perfect films, if you've seen Blockers, you have a taste of Kay's sense of humor, and Kay is an incredibly funny lady. And based off of this trailer, I'm like, I don't know how the movie's going to be. This is a completely different Cinderella, but it definitely looks really funny. I mean, you have a very funny performance from Billy Porter. You have is Camila Cabello. Is that how you say? Is that how you pronounce it? I think this is her first big acting role. You've also got Idina Menzel, Broadway's Idina Menzel in it as the wicked stepmother, Pierce Brosnan and Minnie Driver as the prince's parents. What do you guys think? The first look at Cinderella.
I will say this. I liked it. I wasn't sure what I was going to get. I'm not the target demographic, as I said in my trailer reaction. I am not who they're trying to get in the theater necessarily. Or maybe. I don't know, maybe. But I really
says the guy who introduced me to Into the Woods. Get the fuck out of here.
I do like musicals, but I mean this approach to a Cinderella story. I mean, I've never seen the Brano one, and everyone says it's incredible. So I haven't found myself necessarily putting that one on at any time. But this one, I really liked Kay's approach to it. You know, this is 2021. This is an upwardly mobile young woman. She's trying to build her own business. Yes, she falls in love with a prince, but doesn't mean that she's got to sit around waiting for a prince. It's a new era. It's a new type. It's a new interpretation. I think it works really well. And Camila Cabello, look, no offense to Brandy, no offense to these other actresses who try to transition from singing into acting. Not all of them make it. I mean, certainly Lady Gaga from that House of Gucci trailer looks incredible. Like she's gone next level. So you wonder, you worry, but Camila Cabello looks absolutely believable. She's no perfect than what I saw in the trailer. Having Billy Porter, that's just perfect casting. Once again, 2021, a new twist on the fairy godmother. It totally works, and it looks fun. It looks vibrant. I haven't seen Schmigadoon yet, but you've got this vibe that we're slowly walking back into this musicals, right? Greatest Showman, then we had In the Heights, which was fantastic. West Side Story is coming, Schmigadoon, and now this. So certainly there seems to be a market where people are opening the door to musicals more and more, and I think from the trailer, I think this looks like a fun film. Mike?
Yeah, I think I had dinner with Kay like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and she was like, and this was before the pandemic, before everything, and she was telling me, she's like, I'm flying to London, I'm going to film this Cinderella movie that I wrote, and she kind of gave me the broad strokes, like Cinderella wants to be a dressmaker, she's not sure she wants to just get married and settle down, it's going to be like a mix of like new original songs and, like kind of like classic jukebox kind of musical songs, like we're going to pull stuff, kind of be a little bit anachronistic with it, and Billy Porter's going to be this fabulous godmother. And I was like, okay, that all sounds interesting to me. As opposed to Rocha, that is right up my alley. But I will see. That sounds like so huge, so ambitious. And then I was over at her house a couple weeks ago, and she was just telling me how much she loved the filming of it, and how great it was, and how she was like she said she was a kinder, gentler Tom Cruise on the set as far as making sure that everybody was masked up and doing things appropriately. But was just telling me like all of like how great it was to have these huge musical numbers, and I'm like, all right. And then I saw the trailer, and I'm like, holy shit! I texted her. I was like, I think you did everything you said. Like as I said on Twitter, this hit every gay, fabulous, once upon a pop musical time in my body. Like I was 100% on board. It's all the things I love, and it looks great. It totally, and I think John, you said this in your trailer reaction, totally was giving me Greatest Showman vibes. Just like these big production numbers. That song that Camila Cabello is singing at the end of the trailer is epic to me. Like I am super down for this. Like I love musicals. I love fairy tales. Like I'm all about, and I love Billy Porter as a fabulous godmother. I think it's all really, really cool. So I'm stoked. Like I feel like this is one of those. I remember when Greatest Showman first came out, and it wasn't getting the best reviews, but John had seen it at a screening, I think. Yep. And the three of us, actually, we did a double feature. We saw Jumanji and Greatest Showman in one day.
That's right.
And I remember that you were like, the Greatest Showman, like, I know that the reviews aren't great, but I want to see it with you. I want to see it with you. I'm like, all right, let's see it. And I think like 2 minutes into the movie, I was like, I'm so into this right now. And I'm getting those same vibes from this trailer. So I am all on board the Cinderella train for this. I can't wait.
Shan?
Yeah, I definitely got Greatest Showman vibes. I also got Moulin Rouge vibes. When you see them like they're doing when they were doing Rhythm Nation, I was like, oh, this seems like kind of like a more joyous Moulin Rouge right now. And also, just based off the trailer, based off of Camila Cabello's performance, like as John said, like a lot of singers try to make that leap to acting, and it's just not. They just don't have that gear. It's just not in them. Based off of the trailer,
sorry, but yeah, Evita. Yes.
Based off of the trailer, not only seemed like she's giving a pretty convincing performance, she knows how to land a joke.
Yeah.
And again, that's not the easiest thing to do. I mean, she has some really, really funny moments. So yeah, I mean, again, I would not consider myself the demographic for this necessarily, but I'll certainly throw it on September 3rd, which is when it drops on Amazon.
Yeah. That is a really good point. I mean, I think like for all the great music and everything else that's in there, I think that that moment when Billy Porter is like, "Do you want to go to the ball and hang out with a bunch of rich people and change your life forever?" And she's like, "Yeah, I've literally been singing about that for the past 2 minutes." I was like, you give me a little self-referential musical joke in there, and I'm like, "Yep, that's it." Mwah,
I mean,
chef's kiss.
The glass slipper moment, she's like, did a whole thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, even magic has its limits. I mean, that's very, very funny.
Oh, yeah.
And just a week later, which brings us to our last trailer, on September 10th, we'll be getting on Netflix Kate, starring Mary Elizabeth Winstead. So as I was watching this trailer, I mean, in the credits, they say of Atomic Blonde, and this just seems to be up Netflix's alley right now on the heels of Gunpowder Milkshake. I mean, this is just a terrific performer kicking ass. Like, as I was watching this trailer, it also has Woody Harrelson in it as well. As I was watching this trailer, it was like, oh, if you watch Birds of Prey and were disappointed at how much Huntress you didn't get, I think this movie is definitely going to fill that void. I mean, Mary Elizabeth Winstead she just looks awesome. There's just an intensity and a realness that she brings to her performances. But basically, she's playing a female assassin in Japan who gets poisoned, and she has 24 hours to get vengeance on her murderer before he dies. That's pretty much the extent of this. It's Mary Elizabeth Winstead on the revenge trail, kicking ass. But gentlemen, what did we think of the first look at Kate?
Ooh, yeah, I saw this come out, and I was like, oh, I got to do a trailer reaction for this. This is so up my alley, and I recorded it last night, last minute, just threw it on. But this is the combo of Old Boy, of Crank, of any revenge film you can just put into this mix right here. Plus the vibrant colors definitely gives it that little bit of Gunpowder Milkshake vibe, but a Japanese vibe. And the director's a French director, and the writers from The Huntsman, The Winter's War, or whatever it is, the second one that came out. So, but like, so he directed.
He directed it.
Sorry. He did, yeah, he did. So it's a different writer. Sorry about that. The director is the guy who directed The Huntsman's Winter's War, whatever. So maybe that doesn't give you too much confidence. He was a visual effects supervisor for a few films before this is his first kind of like theatrical feature. So you're seeing the looks of what he can do visual effects wise, totally out there for people to see. But I like this Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Look, this is a more hardcore woman. She has kind of been through the wars herself in her own life. I mean, she's had some personal stuff go on with all the drama around Ewan McGregor, but also like those pictures being posted without her permission on the internet. Like, she's had to go through some stuff here. And I think what you're seeing since that Fargo season, Mary Elizabeth Winstead is a completely different actress than you remember her in, like Scott Pilgrim or some of the younger stuff. She's got a steel to her performances now that is great to see. So in something like this, which could easily be a throwaway film, bringing her into this, and Woody, of course, who's becoming the new Nicolas Cage, by the way, bringing her in really solidifies and grounds the movie and makes you immediately connect to the lead and want to see her achieve the goals. And she did all her own stunts. None of these stunts were used, as she says, all her own stunts, all her own fighting. Every time you see her, even from behind, that's her. So certainly she was trying to do something here and make a statement. And maybe you're right, Shannon. The Huntress stuff, maybe she was mad she didn't get to do more Birds of Prey, so she wanted to show what she could do. Mike?
Yeah, I thought this was a great trailer. I have I do love that we have the sort of revenge badass assassin drama kind of vibe. Like, this is a genre that we have now, but we've just replaced the males with the females, and we get to see these like big, it's a genre unto itself right now, which I think is great. But just like the male version of this genre, it sort of makes or breaks it on the performer and the concept. Yep. Because, like, we've seen some of these movies where it's like, here's the awesome badass female and she's got to go kill a bunch of people. And, like, either the actress isn't the most interesting or the most dynamic, or the concept is pretty straightforward and you feel like you've seen it before. Like, there's a bunch of trailers kind of floating around right now where you're like, this movie doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look good. It just looks like I've seen it before. And like with this, I agree with everything you guys are saying about her. I think she is a fantastic dynamic actress, and this just looks like a showcase for her. And she looks amazing in the trailer. And to Shannon's point, the concept of you got poisoned, you have 24 hours. Like, this is it. Like, that's the clock. In the trailer, like, this is the clock of the movie. And this sort of idea of, like, you have just this amount of time and no fucks left to give because this is it for you, and you're gonna do everything you can to take revenge on the people that did this to you. Like, it's really straightforward, but it's a really compelling concept. Like, it's great. Like, it's almost like, all right, well, we know she's gonna die, but what is the journey gonna be? Like, since it's not about I want to save myself, it doesn't appear to be. Right. Well, what is the story? And like, that's really interesting to me. So I'm super on board with it. I can't wait to go see it. I also do love. I was thinking about it as Shannon said it. I feel like we all as a pop culture entertainment going public have shifted really easily into this idea that some movies come out in theaters and some come out on our TVs. Mm-hmm. As we've been doing, like, whether it be this trailer or some of the others that we do, or Cinderella, like, that we can go from, oh, here's a trailer that we're really excited about and I can't wait to go to the theater and see it, and here's a trailer that I'm really excited about and I can't wait to pop it on and sit on my couch. And I just think it's cool that we live in that world where that is, both of those options are available to us.
Yeah, agreed. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, definitely this is the type of movie that's, if it were in theaters, to me, I'm like, this is an afternoon movie. Like, let's go see it on a Sunday afternoon. Let's grab dinner and drinks afterwards and talk about what a badass Mary Elizabeth Winstead is.
Yeah, totally.
And we can still do that. We can watch it on my couch and we can go get drinks after and talk about what a badass she is.
Oh, that sounds amazing, Mike. I can't wait to do that.
I mean, it's great when your friends live so close by and you can just pop on over for a visit. It's a nice little just popover. It's a popover.
Oh, okay.
Remember popovers, Johnny? Remember popovers?
I don't recall popovers. It's been a while. Hot Pockets, those I recall. All right, anyway, let's move on. And that one comes out September 10th, right? Is that correct, Shannon?
September 10th on Netflix.
Yeah, on Netflix. All right. Hopefully I get an early screening for that. I want to see it. All right. Cobra Kai here. This is the next story. We're jumping into the Cobra Kai star, Xolo Maridueña. He has been cast as Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes, in the Blue Beetle adaptation that DC is doing. One of many Latinos that are starting to kind of get into these positions. Leslie Grace being cast as Batgirl, Sasha Calle as Supergirl. And, of course, before that, we had Jay Hernandez, who was in the first Suicide Squad movie, and Renee Montoya. Rosie Perez as Renee Montoya in the Birds of Prey movie. So, hey, we're starting to show up in these roles, which is really nice to see. And Xolo Maridueña, who is fantastic in Cobra Kai. So seeing him step into Jaime Reyes, I think it's a perfect casting decision. He is the right age. He's the right look. He's the right approach. He is of Mexican, Cuban, and Ecuadorian heritage. So it's all Latino here. And I love that he's stepping into this role. And this is the third edition of the Blue Beetle in terms of the comics, the history of the comics. And I think he follows Ted Cord, right? Because Ted followed someone else. Am I correct on that? Or is Ted the original Blue Beetle, Mike?
Is there a
Ted was the... I'm going to look it up.
Look it up, because I'm pretty sure there's Blue Beetles, and 3 Blue Beetles in the comics. But either way, he's going to be playing Jaime Reyes in this, and this is being directed by Angel Manuel Soto, who did Charm City Kings, which I think is either on Netflix or Hulu right now for you to watch, or maybe it's Amazon Prime. And the screenplay is being written by Mexican-born writer Gareth Dunnett Alcazor, who wrote the upcoming Scarface remake, and Sony's Miss Bala. But yeah, Xolo is a part of this thing. Mike, I go to you first. Do you like this casting? Do you like the kid? Jaime Reyes, pretty awesome character. Are you excited for this?
I'm excited. I think he's great. I think the casting is dead on. So I think that's a big thumbs up for them. Also, I just love when they announce the casting of their lead, because it means the movie's actually happening.
Yeah, good point.
There's always the Warner Brothers and HBO Max are doing this movie, and then you just sort of like never hear about it again. Like there's been a good number of DC projects that we've been excited about, that we've talked about on here, and then like we're like, oh, can't wait to get more information, and then like 3 years later, you're like, I guess nothing happening. But like once you get your lead cast, that's a pretty sure sign that like things are definitely moving forward. So I think that's great. Because I'm super stoked. As a guy who's been reading comics his whole life, I always will have a soft spot for Ted Kord and Booster Gold. I love those guys. Those fools are just the Laverne and Shirley of the DC universe, and you gotta love them. But Jaime Reyes is way more interesting to me as a character. I feel like his story is way more dynamic. I think he's a cooler superhero. I think his abilities are really awesome. And as opposed to, I'm excited for Supergirl. I'm excited for the Batgirl casting. I'm excited for all of those. But why I'm a little bit more excited for this project is that from his very inception, Jaime Reyes has been a story about a Latin superhero and a Latin family, and it deals with Latin issues. It deals with immigrant issues. Yeah. Like as opposed to just taking a character and saying we're going to put this person in this role, and that is awesome, and I fully support it, and I think it's great. This is a story much like Black Panther with Coogler and Boseman and everybody, where you are telling a story about a character that is inherently this culture. And so I'm really excited to see what they do with it. As we talked about, like I would be more excited if this was going to be like a full big feature release. But as long as Warner Brothers and HBO Max like put the money in it and really give us a movie that is a full, all the way special effects superhero bonanza, as I was just saying, I'm super happy to see it on my couch if it's as awesome as I hope it can be.
Yeah, I want it to look that way as well. I don't want it to look like, a glorified TV movie. I hope to God, like we're seeing with Bad Batch and some of these Disney Plus shows, you want to see that kind of money behind the look and feel and approach to these kinds of movies. Or other words, people of color are going to be like, yeah, you gave us this, but you gave it to us on the small screen and you didn't bring the big guns. So fuck you. Get us more. And I think that's what I hope Warner Brothers isn't trying to split trying to have it both ways here. If they're doing this, put all the money into it and really give some love to it. Shannon, real quick, Xolo responded to all of this, and he said, the only thing that is on my mind right now is just the fact that he's Latino. I have so much pride in getting to be a part of this project with Angel, someone like him. That's the director. I think it's so important, and I don't want to stand on the soapbox for too long, but representation is so important. What do you think about this whole news?
I mean, look, I echo the concerns about budget, because as of this point, and correct me if I'm wrong, I might be, but we haven't seen an HBO Max big special effects movie. Like we haven't seen something on the level of some of the things Netflix has done to varying levels of success. I mean, you look at some Netflix movies where they did spend a lot of money and all product was meh. Like Batgirl seems like a movie that you could do on a more economical budget. Blue Beetle, you can't really do that. I mean, this is going to be just with his character. This is going to be an effects heavy film, and you hope that the budget is going to be there to support whatever the vision is. Yeah. In terms of just Xolo playing this character, I mean, when we Cobra Kai, as much as I'm kind of, so-so on some of it, he has been one of the most consistent things. Yeah. I mean, especially some of his work in the third season after his, like, if any of our viewers haven't watched it, I won't spoil it, even though it's been all over the promos. His character, there's a turn in the third season. And he has consistently done like a really, really, really fantastic job amongst some performances that are great and amongst some performances that are a little meh. But to what Vogel was saying about the Ted Kord Booster Gold of it all, this is also a movie that could be kind of a buddy comedy, because in past iterations, depending on where you're watching it, the Scarab has a personality. The Scarab, there is some interplay between Jaime and the Scarab. Sometimes the Scarab is just kind of beeping. Sometimes it actually has dialogue. So this could be something very fun and something very enjoyable to watch. And to your point, John, Ted Kord was the second Blue Beetle. He was a character named Dan Garrett. So good on you on that.
Yeah. I had a feeling.
Shannon, no, Shannon makes a good point. I mean, for those that don't know who Jaime Reyes is and who Blue Beetle is, as opposed to Ted Kord, who kind of dressed up in a Beetle costume and had like a Beetle theme going on, Jaime Reyes has this scarab from outer space that attaches to his back that is sentient and has its own personality and its own drive and its own plans. And those plans are usually pretty violent. And so this young kid who is in I believe he's in Texas, but who gets this scarab on his back, who gets these amazing abilities, but also has this alien artifact on his back that's constantly like, let's kill, let's destroy. In a way, it's kind of similar to what's going on with Tom Hardy in the Venom movies, but like less organic and more tech focused. But yeah, there's the potential for a lot of fun there, and a lot of some of the greatest Blue Beetle stories with Jaime Reyes kind of involve him sort of arguing it out with the scarab and trying to be more of the hero than maybe this artifact was intending to be at the get-go. So I'm sure that will definitely be a part of this story. And yeah, if they do it right, it could be really, really, really entertaining.
I just want to hear a Spanish Cookie Monster. No lo mates. Anyway, I just want to see that. All right, so so that's they're going to start production. So and I think the screenwriter is being interviewed when he said that he got the part. Xolo got the part. They're expecting him to come in and start the process of production. So this is awesome. So hopefully we'll be seeing it very, very soon. Excited about a lot of things that are coming here for DC. I hope they get them right, because I really want to enjoy these characters and their work. Yeah, exactly, Shannon. All right, let's move on. Mikey, what do you got for us, brother?
Let's talk about our good friend Taika Waititi, the busiest man in Hollywood. In addition to, I believe he has a soccer movie that's coming out soon. He is in the movie Free Guy that's coming out in a couple weeks. He's got Thor: Love and Thunder, obviously, which we are all very excited about. He's writing a Star Wars movie. Taika Waititi's all over the place. And for those who remember, I believe we talked about it on here. He was also hired a few years back to crack an animated Flash Gordon movie, I believe for Fox, for 20th Century Fox. And then, of course, Disney bought Fox. And it's now 20th Century Films, and it was all big questions about what was going on, but it is Taika Waititi. It's a big space thing. Things looked like it was still going to be good. We were going to get an animated Taika Waititi Flash Gordon movie, but in some recent press interviews around Jungle Cruise, producer John Davis has kind of let slip and told people that the formerly animated Flash Gordon movie is now going to be a fully live action movie. That basically Taika Waititi came to them and said, I want to do an animated Flash Gordon, and they were like, sure, Taika, you're cool, let's do it. And then Taika was like, you know what, as I've been writing this script and I'm thinking about it, I want to do it live action. And they were like, cool, you're Taika, we'll do it live action. It's kind of whatever you want to do, Taika Waititi. Flash Gordon, big sci-fi pulp star from back in the day, was created to sort of compete with Buck Rogers. There was a really weird 80s movie for Flash Gordon that if you love it, you love it, and if you don't, boy, you don't. And like Flash Gordon, it's one of those things that like has the potential to be cool like Star Wars and Star Trek and all the other things that we're super excited about, but it's never quite made the leap. And I think a lot of people are thinking that Taika is going to do it. People were sure he was going to do it when Flash Gordon was being animated, and I think the idea of him doing another giant sci-fi live-action special effects bonanza in addition to the Thor movies and the Star Wars movie isn't making anybody mad at the moment. But what do you gentlemen think?
Let me see. I like this idea. I like, I've been waiting for Flash Gordon to be remade. And because it's shocking to me that film came out like 1980, and we're at 32 years since that film came out, and it's still, I don't know how long is it, but like 42 years or something like that, and it still hasn't been remade, which is insane to me. That film is so ripe for being remade. So Taika Waititi is the right choice. You're right, he's working on so many things, but him doing the sci-fi stuff with Thor Ragnarok and space stuff and make it funny, it all works. Chris Hemsworth seems like the natural choice here, but I wonder if they'll go in another direction. But he seems to be the right choice, so why not? I think it's a smart move to let him be a part of this.
Shannon?
I fully disagree on the Chris Hemsworth.
Oh, wow.
I think at this point, we should find a different leading man, just because Thor Ragnarok, he did use Flash Gordon as a lot of the inspiration for Thor Ragnarok.
Good point.
I mean, you look at Taika Waititi's recent kind of breadth of work and how Disney clearly wants to keep him in the family. Mm-hmm. You look at his work on The Mandalorian, you look at his 2 Thor films. He's writing a Star Wars film. I mean, even Jojo Rabbit, I think was it before that Disney bought Fox? But I mean, that was Fox Searchlight. I mean,
Yeah.
It was before. Yes. Yep.
Disney very much wants to keep him kind of in the brood. I mean, it seems like such a natural pairing. And I have to think that Taika Waititi is just living his best life right now. Like, you have a kid who grew up being inspired by Star Wars, loving Flash Gordon, and literally getting to do all the, basically he gets to open up his toy box from when he was a kid and make those adventures he had as a child reality now.
Yeah.
It's and there I read something with one of the producers where, okay, why go back to the well? Like, if you are doing Star Wars, if you are doing Thor, if you are using these things that Flash Gordon inspired, like why do Flash Gordon? It seems like it could be a little also ran at this point, but the producer had assured the reporter that is like, nope, this is Taika's take on it. Like, we would not have went on if we didn't think he could bring something wholly original to it. And what we're going to get is something wholly Taika. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really exciting. And I'm very curious to see who they will cast as Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
Obviously not Liam. So there you go. All right.
I will say, I will say, I do have one like disappointment a little bit, and that is only that I was excited for a giant sci-fi Taika Waititi animation brand. Like, I do think that the common thinking, and I think everybody is kind of having this reaction now, that like, animated Taika movie good, live action Taika movie even better. Like, if we want to see these big things, let's see them in live action, let's see them fully realized. But I was really excited to have a animated feature, kind of like with Lord and Miller doing Spider-Verse. You know, I think that like the more that we get some of these bigger name directors working with really, really great animation directors and animation teams and elevating the genre of animation constantly is also great. So like, you know, the idea of having like a Star Wars level brand that only existed in animation was really compelling to me. I'm also excited to see a live action Flash Gordon. Like, I'm obviously going to be stoked about it, and we'll talk about the trailer when it comes out and we'll all be like, it's amazing. But as like the animation nerd, there's definitely a part of me that wants some of these big things to start just existing in animation. So that's like my one, I wouldn't even call it a gripe. It's just like, well, that would have been cool. This will be cool too. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Anything else on that one, Mike?
Anything else from Max Headroom over here?
Is that what's happening?
Oh, pretty much.
I'm sorry.
It's like I'll tell you something about Taika.
I like it.
Waititi.
I like
it's
it.
Basically
Makes me feel like I'm back in the 80s. I got me, John Rocha, and Max Headroom trying to sell me a Diet Coke. Like, it's perfect. I love it.
Or New Coke. All right, let's get on out of here. This section of the show here. We're going to take a quick break and get into our discussion about what if being canon in the MCU, according to its head writer. We'll be right back right after this.
I don't know if this is working. If I'm Max Headroom,
it worked. It worked. I was really hoping it wasn't going to. I was waiting for the ba 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 ba. But no, you pulled that one off. You were good.
Yeah. Good job, buddy boy. All right. What if we're into August 5th right now? So what if is 6 days away from coming out as we're recording this, August 11th. It is going to be coming out on Disney Plus. And IGN was speaking to the head writer, AC Bradley, about their show and was asked if it's going to be canon. And this was the response from AC Bradley. The events of What If are canon. It's part of the MCU multiverse. The multiverse is here. It is real, and it is absolutely fantastic, people. And, of course, Kate Herron pretty much said that in interviews that Loki was the launch of the multiverse. We'd known that the multiverse was going to be in the MCU since they titled Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. There were certainly hints of it in Wanda Vision as well. And, you know, you look at all the people that are going to be involved, all the characters. You got, Sebastian Stan's coming back, Haley Atwell's coming back, as we said, Agent Carter, Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Jeff Goldblum as Grandmaster, Tom Hiddleston as Loki, Natalie Portman as Jane Foster, Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, Josh Brolin as Thanos, Samuel Jackson as Nick Fury, Mark Ruffalo, the Hulk, Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark is not going to be, from what I understand, is not going to be heard, or is he going to be heard? There's some conjecture there whether we're going to hear Robert Downey Jr. or not. From the trailer, I didn't hear him, but now there's people saying we will be hearing him. And of course, Chadwick Boseman is coming back, and apparently voicing, from what I read a couple of days ago, 3 or 4 different versions of T'Challa in What If. So that's going to be fun to see. But we're going to have all these multiple characters coming, or multiple actors coming back, playing their characters from the MCU that we know, but in different forms. So now that we're opening the door to the multiverse, anything is possible. One last thing to add to this before we get to the discussion. Dave Bautista on Twitter, when he was asked about why he's not voicing Drax, he said, "They never asked me." So that's a curious thing to hear as well. So what do you guys think overall about this? Do you like the idea that What If is going to be canon? Does this give you an extra incentive to watch this show now and get you even more excited to see what we might see live action down the road?
Max Headroom over here, what do you think?
I think I heard most of the question.
Oh, no.
Yeah, there you go. In terms of it actually being canon, I believe John was the one who told me that there are rumors that Haley Atwell is going to show up in Multiverse of Madness as Captain Carter.
Yeah.
And I think that's possibly, without having seen the show at this point, that sounds like the coolest idea ever to me. It sounds just like a blast. As we watched the finale to Loki, that was sort of the question that we all had, because when Marvel announced everything I can't remember if this was announced at Comic-Con or if it was announced at D23.
It was Comic-Con.
But when it was announced, the What If books, it was always just sort of a story that we know with one little change, and how that changes everything. Thinking like, oh, this will be a fun series, fun animated series to watch in between the big things that we're really kind of championing at the bit for. But now knowing that these things are canon, these things are happening, they might not be happening on the main timeline as we know it, but they are. And depending on the reception of some of these things, who knows what could end up in the movies, what could end up on another Disney Plus series. It is interesting because I think we'd known for a while that Robert Downey Jr. was not going to voice Tony Stark.
Right.
And I don't know if they went on record and just said, like, listen, we don't want to pay $30 million for Robert Downey Jr. to voice it or two. But he's not the only one. I mean, as John said, Bautista isn't. I believe Brie Larson is not voicing Captain Marvel. Cumberbatch is not voicing Doctor Strange, and I don't think Tom Holland is voicing Spider-Man. Why? We don't know. Is it a money issue? Is it like it wasn't contractually obligated? We don't know. But either way, what we've seen from previews, especially some of the recent ones that have come out, there's one out right now where Jeffrey Wright's doing an interview. It just looks awesome, and I can't wait for August 11th.
Yeah, Mike.
I mean, I wouldn't say, to answer your question, I wouldn't say that there's more of an incentive, because I was already 130% watching this. I mean, as we've talked about, like, the cel-shaded animation looks super, super cool. I was already on board. Like Shannon said, the concept of What If is really exciting. I liked it. Like, I was like, this is great. If this is just its own little pocket universe of Marvel where we get to see these other stories and these characters doing different things, that sounds super great. All that being said, the second that Loki, the finale happened, and we kind of saw the multiverse being born, and knowing that What If was coming back, as Shannon said, we all talked about it, and it does make it even cooler than it already was, and it was already really cool. Like, it's the idea that this is actually, these other worlds and these other characters are an important part of the story, because Loki set us up, like you said, we've all known that Doctor Strange is going to be the multiverse of madness. And if you're a comic book nerd, the idea of a multiverse and different versions of characters and living in different worlds where different things have happened, the idea that that was going to be something that existed was cool. Like, we're like, yeah, okay, cool, multiverse. But the way that Loki's storyline with the TVA, with He Who Remains, kind of being like, I have kept things like this because there's this big multiverse thing. The multiverse becoming such an important story for Phase 4, as important as the Infinity Stones ever were for us leading up to this, kind of like does add a little bit of extra weight and heft to the What If stories. There's an extended clip that's out on YouTube. It's about maybe a 40-second clip from the Haley Atwell stuff. Kind of seeing her. and seeing Steve Rogers and seeing Bucky, and like it's great. Like you watch that and you're like, if this is what we're getting for 10 episodes, like I'm so all about this. And yeah, I've been hearing from a lot of people. There's definitely all the rumors, and like we all want to see Captain Britain live action Haley Atwell. We're all into it, but like I've been hearing from some people that like this. At this point, I'm putting that at like 98% to me. Like I'm like, I feel like we're definitely getting her live action.
Okay. Yeah. It feels that way for sure. Yeah. And just to run down some of the stories here, one of them is what if T'Challa became Star-Lord? What if Peggy Carter became Captain Britain, which we just talked about a couple times here? What if Bucky Barnes fought a Captain America zombie? So this idea we're getting of a zombie Avengers, that could be fun to explore as well. And do we know that each of these episodes is a self-contained story, or will there be will they be running stories throughout that we check up on in chapters of each of the story? For example, is Captain Britain going to be a 3-episode arc? Is the Star-Lord T'Challa thing going to be a 4-episode arc? I don't know how that's working.
Well, and I don't know, and this is just a guess on my part, but I do know there was all those articles. This was like about maybe a month ago.
Okay.
But some of the what if consumer product stuff, just some images leaked online.
Okay.
And it kind of had a bunch of the characters together, and it said something like Guardians of the Multiverse. And not that's consumer products. Like that might just be we're taking all these characters and we're putting them on a t-shirt and we're going to call them that. But I do feel like it felt like Disney/Marvel was like not super thrilled that all got out there. So it does seem like there's definitely at least a possibility that as opposed to each one of these being like, hey, here's a cute little story in the multiverse. Oh, here's another cute little story in the multiverse. Oh, isn't that a cute little world? That maybe we are kind of gearing up for some bigger thing where we're going to see different versions of some of these characters maybe even come together. I mean, I think that part of the promise of the finale of Loki is that now we have all of these other universes kind of floating around, and that they are going to start intersecting, and that they are going to start bumping up against each other, and that there is going to be this bigger story. So if that starts to happen in What If, like, fuck yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah. What do you think there, Shannon?
The coolest things about what If has been able to do is, or what they're going to be able to do, is because we are so deep into the Marvel mythos at this point. One of the great things about Endgame was each time they went to a different event, amongst the audience, at least for the first 2 weekends, there was just sort of this roll of they're going to hear. And you saw in one of the What If previews, you see that great shot from the first Avengers where they're kind of doing that little 360 where you can see each character, and then they have that little What If blip, and you see the different version of what that would be. I mean, I believe you see T'Challa's Star-Lord there. I think that's just going to be the coolest thing. I did watch that clip, that 40-second clip that also had Neil McDonough's Dum Dum Dugan in it.
Right.
Something, and I think Mike would be able to speak better to this than I would. Something that I thought was interesting was the expressions on the face. They were a little unexpressive, I guess. I thought the animated lip flap looked a little weird.
Well, so I think this is the trade-off of the style that they've chosen to go with, which is in animation. Animation is a squash and stretch medium, meaning that like with 2D animation, particularly like you think of Bugs Bunny or something, you can squash and stretch, and that means you can make expressions bigger. When eyes bulge, when your mouth drops open, like you can really push that. And in CG, you have to work harder to attain that. But if you really stylize something, like there's a reason that when Incredibles came out, it was one of the first movies that kind of did human characters, but really made them look cartoony. Like, Bob is huge and Edna Mode is tiny, and they were more cartoony. And even with Clone Wars, which we talk about on our spoiler reviews each week, about how beautiful it looks and how great the animation is, those eyes are huge. Like they are stylized humans that have angular features and giant brows that can go up and down. So you're able to express a lot more than you can. And so what they've chosen to do, and I think it's the right choice, I think it's the right call for them, these characters are much more straight down the line human proportions. And they have to move in much more of a human way. But the closer that you get to actual human in CG animation, the more that we as regular, like, you don't have to be an animation expert. You just have to be someone who has eyeballs and lives every day of your life to be a little bit of an expert on how humans move. And so the closer you get to actual human proportions, our eyes, everybody goes, is that right? That looks a little weird. Could they express a little bit more? And so it's a lot harder to do. That being said, I think they're doing a great job. I think it looks amazing. But the thing that you're talking about, where like their eyes kind of open or like the eyebrows go up, and you're like, we're so used to like watching, you know, Hunter and Wrecker and Omega and everybody on Bad Batch with these big eyes that can be so expressive that when you see someone with sort of normal sized eyes, even when their eyes get big and they go, oh, it's Steve, you're like, is that enough of an expression? I don't know. So like that's what you're seeing, and that's what their choice. But I think particularly because they knew early on that this was going to be very much a part of the MCU, that this isn't just a fun side project. And so if we do want to see these characters from the actual MCU in different universes doing different things, the choice to make them look as close to the actual actors playing them as possible and make them feel as human as possible, I think was probably the right call.
Yeah. Brad Winderbaum, who's the executive producer on it, said that there was potential for the variant characters to appear in live action. And so that may and tied it up to the main comics community of how people have been able to accept variants of different characters within reading comics. So wouldn't they be able to do that on screen in a feature film? So it's fascinating to open that door for sure. I can see the positives and the negatives, Mike. I
also will say, this is, and again, it's no news to anybody that I'm super impressed with how Marvel builds their shit. But what they've done between Loki, now into What If, into wherever they're going in Phase 4, is they are taking non-comic book people and leading them step by step to it's almost like let's ease you in. Like Loki was 6 episodes that basically got you on board with variants. Like, take all the other cool stuff aside, they're like, okay, they literally have an instructional video narrated by Miss Minutes to explain to you what a variant is. They're like, so when the timeline does something wonky, there's a different version of you that exists. Maybe it's an older version. Maybe it's a boastful version. Maybe it's an alligator. It could all happen. The universe is crazy. And then they get you all the way there, and you get to the end of Loki, and they're like, okay, now there's a multiverse. And now we have this series that's like, Peggy Carter became the hero instead of Steve. T'Challa went to space. All this stuff happened. They are now showing you what the full effect of a multiverse is and getting you super on board with the idea that characters can show up and be completely different and from a different reality with a completely different experience, and they can pop over to our universe. And so now as we get into Doctor Strange, as we get into Spider-Man, as we get into all these things, Marvel has just given you a step by step course in this is how a multiverse works. So if you're a super nerd like us, and you've grown up reading comic books and multiverses are like, yeah, we totally get it, it's fun to watch it in action. But for all of our friends, and I know all of us do, we all go see movies, we all like have our friends who text us after Loki and be like, I'm not a comic book person, can you please tell me what the fuck just happened? They are showing them this so that they're catching up the regular audience to stuff that comic book fans have known for years. And I just think it's super smart the way they're doing it.
Yeah. Shannon?
And I don't know if you guys said this already during one of my Max Headrooms, but Winderbaum did also confirm that it happened again. He did confirm that in season 2 of What If, Haley Atwell will be returning as Captain Carter, not just in season 2, but beyond, which is kind of like, okay, that's awesome. That Captain Carter, Haley Atwell, might be sort of the connective tissue for all these seasons of What If that we're going to get.
Well, and it makes sense too, right? Because I mean, this also feels, and Mike and Shannon, maybe you guys can speak to this as we head towards the end of the show here. But Feige has been very clear about some of the mistakes they made in the previous phases of the MCU. Been very open about it, and that's a good thing to see. You don't see someone being stubborn or pig-headed about the creative decisions they made. He's like, I'm hearing what I'm hearing, and I'm agreeing with these complaints about Tilda Swinton's character. I'm hearing these complaints about the Mandarin. I'm hearing these complaints about other things. And some of the other complaints, besides some of the casting decisions, has been some us getting like shortchanged on the amount of exposure we had to certain characters. You know, Peggy Carter, great in that first movie, but then, you know, there was Agent Carter, the TV show, but theatrically, they aged her up to die in one of the films, and then they aged her up for a quick scene in Ant-Man. So you don't get as much time with that Peggy Carter that you want to have, and you could argue she's one of the few standouts of the MCU that hasn't had enough screen time to really satisfy people who enjoy her character. So getting a chance to see her do more here and then have it launch into something live action is a positive. Same thing with Dum Dum and all that whole crew of theirs in Captain America. They only were there for like 5-10 minutes of the movie, and those guys have a shit ton of adventures with Captain America in World War II. So will we get more of that? You want to see more of that? Rachel McAdams is coming back to voice her character. Will we have more of that in this as well? So the idea to kind of maybe allow people to enjoy, or even Proxima Midnight and Ebony Maw and all of them, having them come back as the Dark Order, I think is what it's called there. People felt that they were kind of shortchanged as this kind of scary crew. Well, let's see what more they can do. So hopefully that will be something that they open the door for us to enjoy and maybe even launch it into live action. Do you also think it's a possibility that they'll use it as a test run, like certain characters playing or certain actors playing certain characters, and then see if people respond to it positively and work it into a live action situation?
So two answers to your thing. One, if you are watching this and you haven't watched Agent Carter, go watch it. Yeah. It is such a delight. Like Haley Atwell. Haley Atwell is so good. And Agent Carter, you might think that it's kind of about her and there's no superheroes. It is such a fun show. You should absolutely watch it. It's great. And she's amazing. And you can see in her performance in that show why Kevin Feige and Marvel and Disney and everybody would be like, you know what? We should circle back on this Peggy Carter thing. She's pretty decent. I'm all on board for more Peggy Carter as long as we can have her. I think it's a great idea. To your other question about kind of a test run, I don't think so, only because the lead time on animation is so much different and slower than the lead time on live action. So kind of like by the time you write the script for animation, record the voice actor, do the animatic, send the animation overseas, get the animation back, do the sound mixing. By the time you get to the proof of concept, you probably would have already had to have started your live action shoot to catch up to it so it comes out roughly in the same time. So I don't know so much of a test run for characters, but I do think the way that they're doing it is just like we're talking about with this potential Captain Britain thing, is that they know what they're doing and they get the timing right. And so we'll meet a character in animation and follow up pretty quickly by potentially seeing them in live action in a movie. And I think that's, we talk about this a lot with Star Wars, with what they're doing, what they've done with Clone Wars and Rebels and Bad Batch and Mandalorian and the live action stuff that you're doing. And you're seeing the benefit of having characters appear either in live action first and then be in animation voiced by the same actress or vice versa, and how exciting it is and how it ties the animated universe and the live action universe together. And it looks like Marvel's just following suit, and I am all on board with that. Yeah.
Jan?
Yeah, I mean, Vogel knows those production timelines, especially for animated series, way better than I do. But I would say that I don't think they would use the audience reception as a test run. But I do think in the production process during the writing, if they could see the possibilities of a character being in the creative process, being like, this is turning out really well. Let's use this down the line. Let's put this up on the board as a piece we'll be able to use later.
That's a good point.
One last thing. Do you see any pitfalls with this approach? Do you think we're stretching the boundaries of what the fans can accept or watch or keep track of or follow? Obviously, for every YouTuber, this is gold. But for regular people who aren't doing YouTube channels, are they going to be able to keep track of everything before they go into a movie theater going forward?
Well, they will if they watch the Geek Buddies spoiler reviews.
Good point. But I just wonder. But maybe we've moved past that generation that would have been like, oh, I don't want to pay attention to all that. Maybe the newer generation, the generation my age is like, yeah, hell yeah, give it to me all. I will keep track of it. I'm on top of it. And the people who are like you guys, younger generation, then younger generation after that, they'll keep track of everything. So do you think we've moved past that concern and we're in a whole new place where we can do this and it'll be fine?
Well, I think in the promotions, they've been pretty clear about the Watcher. And I would have to assume that as the show starts, they're going to give you a bit of a catch up to be like, hey,
right,
this is what is going on. Yeah. This is what this show is. And more than likely that'll happen in every episode. So that this is what happens. This is what happens when this happens. This is what happens when we go this way. Right. So even if you kind of go in sort of uninitiated, I think they will explain it as best they can.
Yeah. Yeah. Mike?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the pitfall is the concept itself. The potential pitfall is the concept itself. Like, Marvel, over 23 movies in 10 years, kind of led us down here's all these characters, and they all exist in one universe, and they all interact with each other, and here's this bigger story that we're building to, and they got to Endgame, and you're like, well, fuck, you did it. Okay, good job. As opposed to just trying to repeat that again, they're like, cool, now there's a multiverse with lots of different versions of these characters, and they're all going to collide with each other, and our big bad guy is a time-traveling guy who can hop all through history and control everything, and it's going to get really complicated. And the pitfall of that is exactly what you said, which is at a certain point, the audience goes, fuck, I'm lost. I don't get it. I don't know.
I'm out.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm out. Yeah. I stopped watching 3 movies ago because this guy showed up, but it was a variant of this version, but it was a previous variant that came in through time, and he came up and there was a thing, and I don't know what happened, and I'm just going to go watch Taika Waititi's Flash Gordon movie. Like, that's definitely a possibility. I think that at this point they've proven that they're doing it, and I do think that, to Shannon's point about with this series, they're going to introduce the Watcher, as Jeffrey Wright as the Watcher, and they're, again, by having these 10 episodes, each one kind of dealing with a different part of the multiverse, it is baby stepping the non-comic book audience into this concept in a nice, fun animated series on TV, so that when we get to the madness part in Doctor Strange, there's at least an understanding, and if you don't get it, you can still lean over to your friend who watched What If and be like, okay, let me explain to you how this works. So there's a multiverse, and this guy is not really this guy. In the movies, he was this guy, but here he's this guy. But it all makes sense, but it's good, it's great, just check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, there you go. All right, we're looking forward to it. It's coming out August 11th. We'll definitely be doing reviews here on the Geek Buddies. Hopefully we can wrangle Emma in to join us yet again as our Marvel go-to. She's always great to join us for this kind of stuff, so hopefully we can get her to come back and have fun with us, and maybe even Laura Kelly at some point down the road, which could be a lot of fun, so we'll see. But yeah, we'll be keeping tabs on it. It's coming out next week, August 11th. I get the first 3 episodes tomorrow, so I'll be doing a non-spoiler review of myself just talking about it real short, and then we'll do a big old spoiler review with the Geek Buddies for sure. Yes.
Please do not text me, call me, or speak to me for the next 7 days. Thank you.
Called it. Called it.
Please just do not. Please do not talk to me.
I like your face. Please do not talk to me or call me or anything. All right, we're out of here. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Geek Buddies. Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at Geek_Buddies, on Instagram, at _Geek_Buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung, on Instagram, at Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you would like to follow Mr. It's at MKToon. If you would like to follow Mr. Rocha, it is at The Rocha Says.
Ooh, we got through that. All right, Mikey.
Listen, we love what we're doing here, and we love your help getting us there. So if you would like to help us keep doing what we're doing and get Shannon an Ethernet cable, here
please.
Is what you can do for us. You can hit the like button below, subscribe to John's Outlaw Nation page. There's a ton of awesome content, a lot of it with us, a lot of it with other people. He is a very busy man. Leave us comments below. What did you think of the trailers? What do you think of Taika Waititi? Are you excited about Blue Beetle? What are you stoked for about What If? Do you think that they bit off more than they can chew? Do you want to see these characters in live action? Like, let us know all your thoughts below. If you're listening to us on Anchor or Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anywhere where podcasts are available, definitely leave some stars, leave some comments there. It just helps us go up in those rankings so that when people like search for entertainment stuff, they can find us. And as always, please retweet this video, share it on all your social media channels, tell people to check out the Geek Buddies. Some of you guys in person and on Twitter have told us how you've been recommending the show to people, how people have really enjoyed the spoiler reviews, how it helped them understand what was going on in the Marvel Universe. We love all of that, and we want to do more of it. So the more that you share, the more that we care. Thank you so much.
Very well done. All right, let's get out of here. Much love to all of you. We'll talk to you next time on another brand new episode of the
Geek
Buddies.